Mike Edelstein here. I have a separate introduction to the environmental psychology online, but in this video I want to just talk a little bit about how our course is set up. And I want to have a chance to direct you through the course, through the Moodle site. The course is offered online on a learning management system called Moodle. Moodle is actually one of the best learning management systems that currently exist. It offers a lot of flexibility, but as you can see looking at the website, the core of the Moodle site is actually the page and this center area here, and the course is laid out vertically in this center area. On the right side of the course are announcements, and the only announcement here right now is welcome to summer environmental psychology. Sometimes this is taught in the fall, so fall environmental psychology. And to the left we have all the tools that we use. Just direct your attention to the left for a moment, and you'll see that we have at the top something very important, which are the jumps. I have lots of video and stuff at the beginning, and you don't want to look at it every time. And in fact, as the course goes through its various weeks and modules, you'll be able to jump to the next module and skip basically everything that you already have looked at and go right where you want to go. So learn how to use those jumps. They'll save you a lot of time. We have participants, which basically shows who's in the class, and you can connect with your fellow students. One of your early assignments is actually to embellish this so that everybody knows who you are, because it's an online course. You can't really see each other very well, in fact at all. And then under activities we have assignments, and you'll see that some things that you submit to me are assignments. They go directly to me for grading. Other things come under here under forums, and forums are really there for sharing with other people in the class. And they may be graded at times as well, but by and large they're there so that you can see what other students are doing and you can comment on it. And that speaks to one of the most important elements of the way this class is set up, which is learning from each other. You have the opportunity to really benefit from each other's insights, comments on what you've done, comments on what the other people have done, really getting a full spectrum. And in fact, one of the interesting things is that when we teach this class face-to-face, which I do sometimes, there's much less opportunity to hear from each student about what they've done than there is on the online version. You'll get a much more complete opportunity to learn from each other. And frankly, that's where a lot of the learning comes from. And in an online class, that's where much of the learning comes from. The role of the teacher is really a very different role. I'm kind of managing the learning process that I've set up and that you're in, and you're experiencing it, as opposed to me just telling you everything. There are opportunities for chats. You'll be divided into groups, and those groups will talk to each other, and you have chat rooms to do it. If I need to talk to you or we need to have a student-teacher conference, one thing that we can do is meet in a chat room. You have choices, which is very important early on, because you're going to go in there and choose which group you're going to work in. I divided up the groups by time of day and week, on the assumption that your summer schedules or fall schedules are set up in a very regimented way for you, and you need to find other people who have similar schedules in order to be able to work with them. But the groups are very important, as you'll see, to the way the course works, and you're going to want to make a choice very early and get set up with a group, and each group will then choose a topic for your final presentation and your final paper. So a lot of key stuff comes from this choice button over here on the left. Resources is not so important unless you want to find all of the materials that are in the class at one time, as opposed to having them dispersed over the Moodle page itself. Now, when you look at this administration section, it's primarily stuff that I see on my page, and you don't need to worry about it. So let's move on to the Moodle page itself. As we scroll down the Moodle page, we discover that I have some early stuff up front that has to go with ongoing communications, and you want to get at it quickly. I then put a picture gallery of disasters, because one of the things that we focus on, not the only thing, but one of the things we focus on late in the course are things that go wrong, because we're really going to look at in this course the structure of normal life, and then what happens when normal life is not allowed, when we undergo what I refer to as environmental turbulence. And before that, we'll take a look at the comparison of First Nation or Indigenous or Native peoples and the way they approach the Earth to the way modern people approach the Earth, because it's a great way to learn the differences and therefore the attributes of how we think. And that's what we're trying to get at in that first section. And in that second section, we're going to take a look at the social norms that relate to spatial behavior. And those are fascinating sections. Then we get into our normal structure of behavior and how we deal with its refutation. And then we get into sustainability and what kinds of changes we need to make to be resilient on one hand, but to achieve sustainability on the other. Very important topics. Okay, so on the Moodle site, we've at the top, under Getting Started, we have the syllabus. We have an introduction section here because I want you to get to know each other. I have a welcome video that you can look at. And then we have a whole section on everything relating to the groups you're going to work in, including access to that choice button to choose a group. We have some tips on online communication, some rubrics and information on how things are going to work in the class. And then we have a chart here which shows the pedagogical model that I use for this course and actually for all my teaching, which in a nutshell is that you are going to go through the normal readings that you do for a class. You're going to have a lot of guided experiences, and you'll have some lecture components, but the direct instruction component in the class is much less. And primarily you're going to take that reading and that experience and you're going to reflect on it, and you're going to discuss it in the discussion forums and in papers. And that will lead to integrative learning, where you put all these pieces together. And one of the most crucial forms of learning to engage in is integrative learning. And that will give birth to your paper. If you, in fact, go through this process, you'll do very well in the course. It's by tying these pieces together and doing a lot of reflection and engaging in the discussion process back and forth that you will really be enriched. The first module, as I said, deals with place, culture, and constructed realities. In a nutshell, it's trying to address the question of how do we sense, how do we know, and how do we perceive the environment, and then what are the cultural or metacultural factors that cause us to see the world in a certain way. Fascinating material. And lots of, as you slide down the page, you'll see I have a lot of video, guest lectures from different people, often off of YouTube. They're not done just for the course. We have PowerPoints. Many of them are voiced over so that you can hear my lecture. I'm trying to get all of them updated to being voiced over. And then we see that you have a series of experiences, and those experiences are extremely vital. They have to do with how you really get to know the material in the course. You know, environmental psychology is really fundamentally about the fact that you need to get to be in touch with your environment, with your surround, to realize that we're not just isolates, but we live in a surround. And all of these experiences, to a varying degree, are about immersing you in various aspects of your surround, or having you become familiar with various aspects of how you relate to your surround. And so the experiential component in this class is more important than probably any class you've maybe ever taken. It's really essential, and you're going to spend a lot of your time and effort in those experiences, but you'll enjoy them immensely. You have group chats. You'll have group meetings with each module. The class is divided into 4 modules. I've already mentioned them. The first one being this one on constructing a sense of place, culture, and constructed realities. So moving on, we have the second module on social dynamics and settings, place and community as cultural artifacts. And here, for each section, I state my goals for you. Everything should be very clear. There are PowerPoints, readings, videos, etc., assignments, experiences. I haven't said that for each of these modules you'll be taking one of the experiences that you do and you'll be upgrading it into a full paper. It's going to be a very brief paper, but it's a paper in which you take a look at your observations to the experience, your peers, the other people in the class, and their observations, and then you relate that to some literature because you're going to go and look for things to read. You also have books, one book for each section of the course, and you'll be tying the readings from that book, the readings that you go find, your experience, your peers' experience, and whatever lecture and other materials I put on there together. That's the integration component, and you'll be writing a brief paper for each section. So those are submitted here where it says submit a paper elaborating one assignment from Module 2 in this case. I should also mention that for each module you'll be writing a very brief summary of the book that's assigned for that module, and your group then will have a discussion in which each of you will bring together your assessment of what the most important points are and put that together into one overall analysis, and that will also be submitted. All of this is graded, and I put the number of points on here. Miraculously, it adds up to 100 points, I think. If not, I'll make it 100 points. The third module is on disaster as a refutation of normal life. It's the kind of stuff I personally work on. It's not the happiest material, to be honest with you, but it's very important material because it turns out that it's very hard to understand the structure of our normal life when we're living our normal life. But it's actually very apparent what normal life is about when it's peeled away. And when we lose it, we begin to understand what we've lost. And then we can begin to construct what it was that we assumed was our normal life. We'll be flying through here. The basic layout is everything that I've mentioned. And then we'll find ourselves in that fourth module, the legacy of the future, which we really begin to think about how do we address the sustainability crises of our time, the disasters that are occurring around us, and what do we actually do to try to make a difference. How do we, as environmental psychologists, whether we are psychology majors, environmental majors, or majors in any other program, how do we begin to become aware of this material that we've looked at over the semester in a way that not only allows us to understand what's going on, but to also become part of changes that actually make our society more resilient in the face of the unsustainability of the world that we live in and the way we've structured it. So this all comes together with a final presentation that your group will do. Each group will do a final presentation on a topic that the group has chosen. That final presentation will be on PowerPoint, and it will be posted, and people can read it and comment on it. You then will also submit a paper, which is a fairly substantial research paper that each of you will write on your part of the group's research. You need to remember that you're all in an environmental psychology class, and you don't want to get seduced into looking at topics that aren't really about environmental psychology. So if you're, for example, studying the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster, you're not going to want to write a paper about how nuclear power plants work. That's really not what this class is about. But you certainly would think about writing a paper about how the people in the regions around the nuclear power plant were affected by the disaster during and after its occurrence. That is environmental psychology. So keep that in mind, please. And we end up at the end of the semester, you'll be submitting your individual paper. The group will be posting its group project. You'll be submitting a self and peer grading form. I'll be in my grading also taking into account your participation, which means that I'll be expecting you to be reading everything